So this is a video I've wanted to make for a long time. Ever since I started my channel out of boredom back in the fall of 2009, I have been lucky to turn a channel about animated historical maps into my full-time job. Also since then, an entire community around animated maps online has developed that is way bigger now than around when I started. But obviously, I did not invent the concept of an animated map or an animated historical map. My style of animated maps have been called many things, from video maps to historical mapping, or even Tiger Starian style mapping. But it would be ridiculous for me to claim no one did any sort of animated map before me. After all, a style is not the same as a medium. But like other mediums, whether music or movies, you can trace the approximate history of the medium and see who and what inspired others and who changed the trends. So I wanted to make a video about the animated maps that inspired me. Some of these are unfortunately lost. Others can only be found in the form of re-uploads to YouTube of varying quality. The amount of online video content from the pre-YouTube days and even early YouTube days that is being quickly forgotten or abandoned is a bit worrying. So I feel like if I can at least keep the record of some of them alive, then I should. I mean, that's kind of what history is, right? So let's go over a few of the things that made me go, hey, you know what? I'd love to make something like that. But first, let's get into this video's sponsor, Ground News. With so many things going on, it's so hard to keep up to date and ensure a reliable source for your information. One of the ways you could do that is through Ground News. Ground News is an app and website that not only gathers what's being reported around the world, but also who is covering it and with what bias. After all, some sources cover events more than others, and with Ground News you can get a better overall picture. This one article here is interestingly not covered across the political spectrum, perhaps due to the political nature of the story. It also appears to only be covered by American sources, which makes sense. But it's overall good to know how many features Ground News has that can help you become aware of the limitations of what you're reading. If you click the link in the description before October 31st, you can get a 30% off an unlimited access subscription for Ground News and enjoy one of the best ways to get the full picture of the news. Thanks again to Ground News for sponsoring this video. So from 1909 to 2000, there was a company called Grolier, or is it Grolier? I have no idea, that made educational encyclopedias. In the 1990s, they began to join other educational companies like Scholastic, The Learning Company, and Jumpstart to make educational programs for children for computers. You'd buy a CD-ROM and put it in the computer's disk drive, and it would open up the program that usually had games, interactive activities, and learning things to read about. Grolier made what they called a multimedia encyclopedia, where you could click to read articles and open up videos related to the articles and such. Their 1995 version included what was called Grolier Multimedia Maps, which had a narrator explain the course of a historical event on top of a slideshow-like map. While I didn't own a copy of the disc myself, as a little kid I occasionally had a friend whose family had one, or found a public library that had a copy that I could use. So as a little kid in the early 2000s, I would watch these maps. The ones about wars in particular caught my eye because while I was already obsessed with maps and history, I had never really considered seeing maps progressing from one year to another before. A few of these have been re-uploaded to YouTube, and while they're not as fluidly animated as my video and oversimplify some things, they still have the basic idea across, and they absolutely captivated me as a kid. So I honestly have no idea who made this, and the original is sadly gone. I just know that this was a fancy Microsoft PowerPoint animation, and it showed World War II in Europe in general steps like, oh, next slide shows the invasion of Poland, next slide shows the invasion of Denmark and Norway, stuff like that. I saw it once in school, and it was also uploaded to YouTube by a channel that I can no longer find. If anyone knows who made this first, please tell me in the comments. You can find a few other re-uploads of this, and this presentation in particular was a huge inspiration for me. that World War II in Europe video I have, that one was like my 7th attempt at making a video like that. One of my older ones that is long gone from YouTube was basically me trying to make an improved version of this, but I couldn't figure out how to animate PowerPoint effects on Microsoft Paint, and I was too lazy to make my own PowerPoint, so I just went on with my own style, and here we are. This PowerPoint definitely left a mark on me, and whoever made it deserves a ton of credit for such a wonderful, detailed presentation. In the 2000s, there was a website called mapsofwar.com that made a few Adobe Flash animated maps. You would click play, and then you would just watch the map of whatever it was unfold. They had many errors, but they still left an impression on me because rather than animated maps of wars, they had ones like mapping out the spread of major religions over time, or mapping out modern styles of government like democracy versus fascism versus communism or something like that. You can find many re-uploads of them on YouTube, although they're low visual quality most of the time. Sadly, the website itself went down sometime in the 2010s, and now it's just a broken domain. But even if it was still around, Flash is dead. You'd have to go really far out of your way to find a way to play it. So, I want to be clear here. This one is unique because it's not so much of an inspiration out of the traditional sense, so much as an inspiration out of spite. For those who don't know, there is a community of YouTubers that make these sort of map videos where the countries, talk to each other. Think of it like country balls, but instead of a country ball, it's the map shape itself. It'll glow, and then there'll be dialogue on the screen. I never enjoyed these videos myself, and admittedly as a teenager, I kind of thought that they were a little silly, but nevertheless, the first person to try this style of video was someone named MervueMeringue, who made a map of World War I on Microsoft Paint, and tried to have a humorous style of dialogue between the countries that guided the story of events, because the war started so chaotically. At the time, I really hated the video because the map was really ugly, and 13-year-old me was a little bit overly dramatic and thought, oh my gosh, if I don't make a correct version, then a bunch of people are going to get the completely wrong idea on how the war actually went. So in a way, this motivated me to make videos out of spite. Ironically, my first several World War I videos weren't that much better either, but MervueMeringue himself has acknowledged that the maps also suck, and he made it as a teenager himself. So I don't want to give off any idea that this is some sort of, ongoing hatred thing. It was just a silly thought process I had as a teenager, and, teenagers are overly dramatic and silly. It is what it is. But it's only fair that I still acknowledge that his video did play a part in me forming my channel. For the final entry, I have no idea if this is a single person, a group, or what. All I know is that they're Japanese and they had a 2000s style website where they made flash animations and slideshows of different aspects of mostly Japanese history. I have never been able to read Japanese, so I had no idea what any of it meant. But their YouTube channel of the same name, where I first found them, I happened to accidentally stumble upon one video they made on something that wasn't Japanese history, but rather on Il Risorgimento, the unification of Italy. Their video, unlike the rest of their videos, was not only a slideshow, but it included an animated map. By showing the animated map, I was able to get a general understanding of what was going on. But aside from that, the video starts off so epically with Japanese electric guitar riffing and an almost fighter video game presentation of the major leaders involved at the beginning. The map isn't really animated so much as they included those little boxes that represent military groups moving on top of the map and doing most of the action, and then the map would update after the action. Nevertheless, it blew me away a lot. I can't play a sample because the music is copyrighted, but luckily this video is still up and I'm linking it in the description. It not only contributed to inspiring me to make animated maps on YouTube, but got me excited on learning more about Risorgimento as well, and really got the idea across of how much an animated map can make a difference on learning something from history. Tokuoudouyo doesn't appear to be doing anything anymore, but their videos are still up on YouTube, and it's a shame that they still don't make videos today, because I feel like they would be spectacular. They just unfortunately appeared to pop on YouTube a little too early. Well, I hope you all enjoyed this video about some early internet animated mapping history. Many of these inspirations are gone, or they're there, but they're buried in an algorithmic graveyard where no one sees them anymore. And just as I chose to remember them here, I can only hope that in the hopefully distant future, whenever people have moved on from me or from YouTube, that someone can also be there to archive my things and remember me as well. It's important in history to, keep the knowledge alive, so to speak. I'm Emperor Tigerstar, and I'll see you guys next time.